Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very confident that Bluechiip is one of the hidden gems in this room and the company's presenting. We're a very exciting, innovative company. We've been under development for many years. We now have product and we're now in full sales mode and commercialisation. And I hope that this will give you every good reason to look further into Bluechiip. Obviously, the standard disclaimer for any forward statements that I'm going to make today. So just a quick agenda, just to give you a very quick snapshot on the company and where we've come from. Introduce you to our first target market, first of hopefully many, which is known as biobanking. Briefly explain our technology and our system without getting into too many of the technicalities. Take you and run you through our commercialisation program and how this company is all about growing and making money. Have a brief look at our view of the investment proposition for you, the investment community. Outline some of the opportunities and the next steps, and obviously hopefully have some time for some questions, and then we can get to the coffee and tea break. So what is Bluechiip? As I said before, we are a technology company. We're now a product company. We are actually a globally focused company. We're based in Melbourne, but we also have operations and parties overseas. Manufacturing is done overseas. We have distributors overseas and very globally focused, which I think us Australians need to do if you're going to take on and grow. Our core product is a tag and a chip, and I'll explain that a little bit further, which is all based on what is known as MEMS or microtechnology. My co-founder, Dr. Ron Mood, was one of Australia and the world's leading experts in MEMS technology. I was able to grab Ron out of academia and we set up a business which ended up spinning out what is now Bluechiip. What we've developed is a very novel, unique technology that is all around identification and temperature sensing. And it really is, as we've got there, and I suppose the new wording and branding that we're talking about is chain of custody, being able to track assets, and I'll explain how that is relevant in our first market of tracking biological samples. We have recently entered the commercialisation phase. It's now no more core development. It's now all about growing the business and selling product and getting people using Bluechiip so that it can become the next generation of tracking, labelling and monitoring these assets that these biobanks are storing. It's our plan that we will be seen as the identification and temperature experts in this industry of biobanking, and that we will become the best practice and the gold standard of labelling and tracking. As a company, obviously it's our intention to implement strategies that are going to grow the value for our shareholders who are backing this company, and hopefully they will see the growth there. Just very briefly, our investment proposition. We are a very focused company in many ways, in particular with regards to our first target market. Many opportunities for this technology, but we are very, very focused on the first one, looking to branch out further. We are expecting revenue and earnings growth in this financial year. This is what it's all about. It's not just about churning money into development, it's about making money and growing value. We have a very scalable commercial model. Our products are all high margin, which is great for the financial side of things. There are recurring revenue parts of our system, again, great for the financial model. And our first target market and others are actually very high growth markets that I'll take you through. We do anticipate over the coming months and years a number of milestones which hopefully will be reflected in growing the value of our company, which is why we hopefully will make this something that you will at least look into further. And that includes, I think the most important thing is sales and sales growth. Partnerships are absolutely critical in any business, as we've seen over yesterday and today. And that's co-development, that's manufacturing, that's strategic alliances, that's licensing opportunities, entering the other market verticals that we have identified and some that we're probably not even well aware of yet for even our technology, which is great, and things such as patents. So the journey so far, and again, I think we've seen today a lot of companies that have been around for quite some time. Bluechiip actually isn't a startup company. We've been around for 10 years. The company was formed in 2003. I've been there from day one. It has been a journey. High tech does require time to be developed. It doesn't happen overnight, which is one of the reasons why it's unique, which is one of the reasons why we do have some significant competitive advantages, which is why we have patents around this. It has been a journey from those early days of pure R&D, all thanks to the frozen chicken. That was the reason why this technology came about, where an opportunity was brought to us. Today we happen to be dealing in frozen specimens, but of a much higher commercial value. So we've gone through from the pure R&D days where we proved the technology and proved the concept, through the phases, as I've learned, of engineering and development of alpha, beta, gamma, through to product that we trialled a year ago with some major US corporations. Last year and the first half of this year was all early commercialisation. It was all about completing those pilot trials, implementing what we call our early adopter program with some US entities, launching the product at major industry events. And now we're below that line and we've entered the commercialisation phase. So it's all about entering the market, getting market buy-in, growing sales, having our distributors launch our product, and converting the sales pipeline, which we have been building very actively over the many years. For those in the tech game, hopefully you've heard the terminology of platform technology. That's very clearly what Bluechiip is. Our first target market of biobanking and cryopreservation is the tip of the iceberg. There are many opportunities that, as I said, some we're aware of, some that we're not even aware of that are below the surface. And that's all where there's hopefully much value creation opportunities for this organisation and its shareholders. Very broad, so that's outside of healthcare. It's within healthcare and pharmaceuticals, such as surgical instrument tracking, forensics, and other areas that aren't necessarily like biobanking and cryopreservation, but also outside of healthcare. And that's everything from industrial and manufacturing environments where there's very harsh environments that the technology needs to operate in, aerospace and aviation, defence and security. It's broad. But as I said before, it's very important to remain focused. We will deliver on the first market and then we will start branching out into some of these others to create further value. So let me help set the scene and explain what biobanking is. Biobanking covers a number of things. IVF, some of you may have been through the process, some of you may know people that have been through the process. Storing eggs, embryos and sperm involves very careful, controlled environments where these assets that parents are storing and engaging a clinic with need to ensure that obviously it's their sample, not someone else's, and they're paying for it. It has a high commercial value. Those parents of us in the room hopefully have heard of cord blood banking. It's a huge industry. It's become more and more mainstream. Now it's huge around the world. Here in Australia, we have public listed companies such as Cryosite and a private company here in Melbourne called Cellcare Australia, where you can store your child's cord blood. It's an insurance policy, but it has a value because you as a parent are paying anywhere from $3,000, $5,000 to have that stored and an annual rental fee. Cancer research, exactly the same. These are all harsh environments where samples of high value are being stored, research is being done, drugs are being developed. And there's many more. So this is the global biobanking market. Very briefly, just to explain, it is a huge market. There's over 2 billion samples being stored around the world, everything from blood, tissue, and other specimens, in normally very low temperature environments, and by that I mean minus 80 degrees centigrade down to minus 196, which is in liquid nitrogen. Done obviously and stored in those lower temperatures so they can be stored in a more controlled environment and in a way that they can be kept for many years, e.g. cord blood for 18, 20 years. The growth areas and the reason that you can obviously see the market research reports that show that this market's growing from being around $15 billion now to $45 billion in not too many years' time. is all of these growth areas: cord blood, IVF. There's over 1 million IVF cycles around the world. Cord blood banking, it's now becoming quite mainstream, and we keep on reading about it. It's just celebrated its 25th year. Personalised medicine. I think the major growth area, as we're seeing, is stem cell research and stem cell therapies, and we're actually being involved in more organisations that are storing stem cells and cell lines and doing further research. These all have a high commercial value and thus a reason for Bluechiip. So, before we actually even get to the product, why is there a need for something like Bluechiip, which is a labelling and tracking technique? The historical ways of storing samples in blood bags, in vials, are the following ones I've got here on the bottom. Labels, whether they be pre-printed or handwritten, which some people still do use. Obviously, the dangers there are labels do fall off, even if you buy the best of the best cryogenic labels. I have been into an IVF clinic, a leading IVF clinic, where I've seen labels fall off. That's not very good for identification of samples. You obviously can have transcription errors if they're handwritten, and as we emphasise here, you can't sense temperature with a static label. Barcodes are great technology. A regular linear barcode or a 2D barcode, as we're seeing. The reason that Bluechiip is actually here today in this healthcare space is because a very significant pharmaceutical company approached Bluechiip and said that we need to find a solution to the issue of frosting on our 2D barcodes because we can't read these vials that we have. We've heard about your technology, we're interested. We're still talking to that very large pharma, and that's what's thrown us into this world of cord blood banking, IVF, stem cells, and many others. Barcodes, the main issue that they have is that you need line of sight. You need to be able to get the item and align it exactly as you do, as we all know, at the supermarket, and that can obviously be an issue. And if there is any frost or any deterioration of that barcode, you can't read it. With our technology, you don't need line of sight. You're able to read that, most importantly, in the environment, whereas with a barcode, you actually need to take it out of the storage environment, especially if it's right down to liquid nitrogen, to be able to find that individual sample. And again, as I've said, a barcode in itself can't sense temperature, and I'll explain why that's obviously critical. RFID is a technology that Bluechiip looks like, very similar. It stands for radio frequency identification. That's everything from your access pass to a building, which we all use, your e-tag in your car. Great technology, but for normal environments. RFID is based on electronics. It's based on integrated circuits. Electronics do not like high temperatures. Electronics do not like low temperatures. Why is that relevant? Well, you can see some of the pictures down here. This is where they're stored in low temperatures. They're stored in plastic consumables that are moulded in high temperatures and sterilised. So RFID itself is not able to survive the plastic injection moulding process of many of the consumables and the sample storage containers. It can't survive gamma irradiation, which is used for sterilising these items, and most importantly, to compare it to Bluechiip, is it can't operate and survive right down to liquid nitrogen temperatures. So Bluechiip, what is it? And I'm actually going to ask Rod to hand out some things while I'm talking about our product, just so you can conceptualise what we have and see what we've actually got and how small it is. The Bluechiip system is a unique memory device. What you're going to see here, just to hand around just so you can physically see what we've got, is a very small chip that, as you can see in this picture here, a very big picture, is 0.5 millimetre by 0.5 millimetre, the actual chip, on an antenna which is just over 5 millimetres by 5 millimetres. Just gives you a bit of a perception of here's this small chip that can have ID and can sense temperature. What do we do with that? We put it into consumables, but that is the enabling technology. Because it's MEMS, based on MEMS technology, a purely mechanical device, we are able to survive all those environments that I mentioned to you before. High temperatures of moulding, low temperatures of storage, sterilisation, and one of our very unique attributes is that we can actually sense and record temperature, because the integrity of that sample is absolutely supercritical, whether it be cord blood, IVF, or other samples. So again, what you're going to be seeing around is the very, very small chip that is microscopic, able to be put onto things such as the Bluechiip vial, which you can see in that sample pack. The cryo tag, again, which also you see in that sample pack, is an item which gets used to be put onto blood bags. It also is used to track some of the accessories that are used in the industry, racks and frames that they store in the freezers. We have the full suite. We've developed, we've validated, we've trialled the full products, and this is what the marketplace has been waiting for. It's now ready for sale, and that's the most important thing. So the value proposition for our market, the first market of biobanking, is both financial and non-financial. The financial side of things are that it actually increases the ability to find and retrieve samples, so people are more efficient. Does that mean that if you've got 3 operators in your lab, you may be able to get rid of 1? Potentially. But actually what it means is for someone like an IVF clinic who may actually have a waiting list, it means they can get through more clients. It actually adds to the top line and the bottom line. Clients of ours, customers of ours, have actually said this actually gives us a competitive advantage if we're trying to vie for a tender or a contract for a new project with a hospital or a cancer institute. They see that this actually can really give them a competitive edge because they're using the next generation of technology. Apart from the financial side of things, obviously we've got non-financial, and I think we all live in an environment of risk management. We're all trying to cover our backsides. As I think we heard yesterday, it's the lie awake at night factor. I've heard from some IVF people what obviously makes them lie awake at night is the concern that something may go wrong, and all you need is one thing to go wrong. Can Bluechiip help? It can significantly help reduce that risk of something going awry. So streamlining the processes, complying with things such as operational health and safety. The operators absolutely love this technology because it means they're delving less and less into liquid nitrogen environments and exposing themselves obviously to those harsh environments. There's obviously helping manage the risk of any litigation, insurance. We hope that this is actually something like when you have your car, that you actually can pay a lower premium or not as high a premium if you're adopting something like Bluechiip. And also, thankfully for us, there are growth areas in the regulation and outside of regulation itself. In America, there's a thing known as CAP accreditation. It's like the ISO for healthcare, the College of American Pathologists. They actually require 2 forms of identification, but they also require temperature sensing. Bluechiip's the only technology that can do that, so thankfully some of these things are being written for us. Very quickly, our production strategy is all about making sure that we're aligning ourselves with the biggest and the best. We have tier 1 manufacturing partners that are developing the chip that you can see being handed around, a very significant company called ST Microelectronic. They're a $10 billion company listed on the New York Stock Exchange. They are the world's largest MEMS contract foundry. They are the world's largest MEMS corporation, the first billion-dollar MEMS corporation. Plexus Corporation is another significant company that's making our reader hardware, the hardware to actually read the chips that are on the various assets. They're, again, based out of the US, listed on the NASDAQ. We're using their facility in Malaysia. We're getting a lot of work done in Malaysia, and that's why currently we are centralising all our warehousing and logistics from there so that we can send from Asia either here to Australia, to America or to Europe. Being a technology company, IP is obviously critical. It's one of our major assets. It's why people have backed the company so far. What can we do with those patents? How is the technology and the concept protected? And we have done that by developing a very broad and robust portfolio of 16 patents, 7 which have been granted both in the US and Europe. And we continue to progress that very actively throughout the entire process. We've currently got some that are under examination as we speak. It's very important just to keep on nurturing that asset, and that will obviously be a continuous thing. So now the most important thing, what's our go-to-market strategy? How are we going to get this wonderful technology? We've got the product. How are we going to get it into the hands of the market? How are we going to make money? How are we going to grow sales? We have a 3-pronged attack. Direct sales, which is something that we've been working on continuously over the years. We've built a targeted sales pipeline around the world, which is now all about converting that. We've enrolled 2 US corporations, as I mentioned earlier, in what is known as our early adopter program, who have started using the technology. They've been implementing it now over the last 6 months in their organisations, and the key is getting them to order again and again and again. We've launched a new product, which is actually more of a building relationship product, bringing consulting revenue and actually giving ourselves an even greater chance of selling further product, which is what we call our Blue Diligence chain of custody evaluation product. But we realise as a small company here in Australia, based out in Scoresby, how are we going to take on the world? So we realise that we need to work with partners. The first part of that is distribution partners. We have appointed a North American distributor who gives us access to the US through 3 corporations and Canada 2 corporations called Microcap America. This company, its parent entity, has been around for 27 years in Europe, has a very significant brand. That gives us access to a number of personnel that are actually able to sell the Bluechiip product to the greater market and give us penetration globally. We've also appointed a company called Mitogen, who's up in Ithaca, New York, for another side market, which is more the research and science market, crystallography, which is really synchrotrons and pharmaceutical companies, for a very unique product. It's a niche area, but it actually could bring in some good revenue for Bluechiip. And we're in discussion with other partners to make sure we're aligning ourselves and giving ourselves every chance. The other area is channel partners. These are people that are taking our technology, integrating it into their own product and actually selling it on our behalf. We've secured an agreement with a software company in Italy called H&S, and they have now introduced us to their major partner, who have actually just recently validated the technology. We're about to do 2 trials in Italy, and hopefully that will come forth in a very significant partnership for the company. So our commercial activities also have all been about resourcing. Last year we engaged a commercial director who came out of the pharmaceutical industry, the cord blood industry, Brett Roberts, and a gentleman by the name of Eric Hall, who's based in North Carolina. The US happens to be our major target market focus, so it's important to have people there. Eric is with ATCC as we speak now. He's right on the ground, and that's very important. We've appointed the distributors, as I've said. They now have product, they've been trained in it, they have marketing literature. You can actually go to their websites and actually see our product and fill a shopping cart, and please feel free to do that. I can give you the name of the sub-distributors, and you're more than welcome to order Bluechiip product now. We've launched the new product, as I said. We've allocated some significant funding from our most recent capital raising round, the private placement, into supporting the sales and marketing drive. It's now all about commercialisation and building sales. As all companies have to do, we represent ourselves either directly or with our partners at industry events. Other things that are critical in this industry about building reputation and trust are having papers, and we had a paper published earlier on this year with our partner ATCC in a key industry publication. So just very quickly, on the commercial front, there's a lot happening in the background. We are working around the clock on making sure that we can get traction on the commercial front. We're looking at securing sales orders from direct customers and partners that we're working with, as well as getting orders through our distributors. We've got some proposals out there for the new product that I mentioned, the consulting product, that we hope to see some significant growth both in the US in particular, but also here. We're talking to a local distributor who is a global player, and we're actually looking at doing 2 trials here in Melbourne with 2 leading health organisations. We've got an organisation in Italy that we're about to do a trial, literally a very short 2-week trial. This is not a clinical trial. This is someone who's literally taking it and validating it with a public and a private hospital in Milan. We're looking at the next steps with our early adopter program partners and securing orders from them, and looking at other opportunities that we have with those organisations as we've built that relationship. Asia, in our backyard, it is the largest growth area of biobanking. Thankfully, both on the pharmaceutical side, the number of cord blood banks, the number of parents that store their child's cord blood bank in Taiwan and Korea is huge. It's much greater than even here in Australia, and in particular even in the US. We are looking at working with a new greenfield stem cell facility in China, who it's absolutely perfectly made for Bluechiip, because they obviously don't have an integrated system already that we're trying to outdo and replace. They're actually looking for a new system to put in place right now, and so my team actually this time next week is in Singapore meeting with them, and we're in discussion with people for Europe, which is a huge market and opportunity for Bluechiip. Our other asset is our team. Without going into the details, we've got it both on the executive side to make sure that we cover it. You've heard about my background. Dr. Jason Chaffee, our CTO, is now Australia's leading expert in MEMS. He happens to be probably a protege of Dr. Mood, my co-founder, because he did his PhD under Ron. Jason represents Australia as the Australian delegation of the MEMS community here, abroad at different events. Brett Roberts, as I said, the other Brett. Brett's had 20 years experience, was with Pfizer. We picked him up from Cellcare Australia, Australia's largest cord blood bank. He knows the industry. Our board, some members who are here today, and hopefully you'll get a chance to have a chat with them also over coffee at the break shortly. Broad and really adding value. Ian Kirkwood, our chairman, who's been with us now for 7 years, has a financial accounting background like myself, but a lot of public company experience and helping companies through this phase that Bluechiip's going through. Joe Bainey, who's in the audience today, Joe's out of the pharma industry and the healthcare industry and taking product to market. And Ron Finkel recently joined us a year ago. Ron's a stalwart of the VC community. We've got Ron for his experience in commercialisation. It's all about making sure this can happen. So a very short corporate summary. It's all there, all the facts are there. I suppose the most important things for us are this is a reasonably tightly held stock. We have almost 500 shareholders. The top 20 represents around 2/3 of our register. We know a lot of the people on our register. Thankfully, the register has grown and matured over the last year. Now we have some very sophisticated investors and now some institutional investors that have come on board and really are seeing what Bluechiip is all about and obviously aspiring to the success that we are talking. Our funding position, we have recently raised $2.5 million in a placement in August, which has really given us the runway through to 2014. We currently just have over $2 million in the bank. All being well, sales are going to ramp up and the margins are going to be starting to come in over the next months and year. But we also have access to some funds from exercising of options. There's another up to potentially $2 million there. We access the R&D tax concession as all Australian companies should. It's a wonderful program. Last year we had $1.1 million come in from that. We actually access that now via a facility that we have with Macquarie Bank, which allows us to draw down on a quarterly basis against that, all ensuring that we can continue to hit the milestones that Bluechiip needs to do. So again, in summary, the proposition is this is an innovative company. It's something that is on the verge of huge success on the commercialisation front. It's what we've all been looking for. I, as a founder, have been waiting for. The shareholders have been on this, the commercial market, the investors that are either involved in Bluechiip or are looking at Bluechiip. It's all now about making sales and growing. I hope, I suppose similar to what Brendan was talking about today, I hope that Bluechiip with two eyes will eventually become a Bluechiip with one eye company. So in summary, the opportunity is obviously have a look at Bluechiip. We'd love you to invest as we enter the next phase of growth. We are certainly welcome to anyone joining the register, whether they be retail, sophisticated, or an institutional investor, and be a partner with us as we grow. The next steps, have a look at our website. There's a lot of information. We've got some information out on the desk outside, the annual report, a copy of this presentation, the research report from Baillieu Holst, who've been covering us for over a year now. Feel free to meet with me over the conference the rest of the day, and you've got my contact details there. And thank you very much for the opportunity.
What does it cost to manufacture one of those chips, and what is it likely to be sold for?
Confidential. It's tens of cents to manufacture, and when it's integrated into a sample, the retail price for a vial is $2.50. There is a margin, significant margin in there available for Bluechiip because the value of that asset that people are storing is anywhere from hundreds, thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars, where they're not necessarily looking at saying I'm replacing a barcode, which obviously barely costs anything because it comes even pre-printed on the item. They care about the value of that asset and they can't afford to leave it outside of the environment it's meant to be stored in and contravene it. So the cost from ST for a chip itself is in the tens of cents and will come down as the economies of scale kick in. The cost of a vial, if you'd like to buy one today, the retail list price is $2.50.
Can you tell us a little bit about the size of the market potential, sales potential?
Sure, we haven't given any market guidance, as you can see, from that slide of how big, this is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Bluechiip starting on a zero base. We obviously we have expectations of growing into the many millions of dollars. It's going to happen, as I think you've seen here today. Every company that's presented yesterday and today started on zero, and it's grown. And Bluechiip will do that. We have our own internal projections. We've really got to get some first runs on the board to be able to give some clear indications of earnings. But I think the key thing is there's a lot of growth potential, and there's very high margins that can be earned on each and every one of our products, from the consumable to the hardware through to the software, which I love because it's all profit.
Hi, Brett. This is Charles from FSCAP Securities. My question is, could you, as a chartered accountant, could you talk more about your financial side of the company? Thanks.
Sure. Well, the financials, you can have a look at the actual details, I suppose, of the company. I think in the summary that's in the booklet that's handed out, the company's got over $2 million worth of assets, which is the cash, obviously, that we've got. We've got some initial inventory that we've built up over the last 6 months that we've dedicated so that we've actually got some inventory on hand that we can meet the demand as it comes. That's it on the asset side. We had $1 million worth of debt to Macquarie, which was actually repaid when we got the R&D tax concession in September, so last month. So there's very little debt. There's just trade creditors and various things. So the company's in quite a good financial sound position. The recent private placement obviously has bolstered the balance sheet. And we just have to be able to continue to strengthen that balance sheet as the time goes on. Obviously, there's more information. You can have a look at our financials in the annual report if you want to look deeper into that. Thankfully, as I said, last year we implemented what we call our early adopter program. ATCC is a large biobank out of Virginia, just outside of Washington, D.C., who've now been using the technology. They actually themselves manage 10 million samples, so they're not a small little enterprise. Researchers around the world know them. I'm always impressed when I hear, when I talk to someone here in Australia. So they've actually been an early adopter. They were party to that paper that we did. We're working continuously with them, and as I said, today and tomorrow, our product manager is with them. They're a great partner, and we hope to use them. They actually presented our technology. It wasn't Bluechiip. It was actually ATCC presented our technology at an event in May this year. So you need those people that will help you be advocates. Gentris is a company out of North Carolina who is in the area of what's known as pharmacogenomics. Again, they're an early adopter. We're looking at other early adopters where they can either get, for a discount or for benefit over a period of time. But it's all now about really ramping up the commercial sales as well in parallel.
Klaus Wiegel here. With your various sales channels, do it yourself and via distributors, could there be any channel conflict between yourself and your distributors?
Good question. I think the best way that works is with open communication with the various parties. I think the direct partners or the direct sales avenues that we're going to go are what are known as house accounts. They're people that we have been working with directly. We've actually declared that to our distributors, those parties that we want to keep in the house, and but allowing them as much latitude as possible to be able to broaden. And if they've got relationships that we don't necessarily have and can give us a much better chance of securing a sale, we will obviously very much welcome them being able to pursue that if need be. So I think it just needs to be something that's proactively worked on with a distributor.
How is the temperature data retrieved from the mechanical chip?
The way that our device works, without getting into too much of the technicalities, is it's based on frequencies. It's actually like an array of beams or keys that vibrate at different frequencies. And as I, as a non-engineer, have learned, frequencies shift with temperature. So once you have the first data point when it's calibrated, when it's manufactured, and you know the room is 22 degrees, when it's stored in liquid nitrogen, the frequencies shift. We are able to detect that shift in frequencies based on an algorithm that we have, and that's pretty much the smarts of it. So simple, but it's complicated as well.